Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to The Bunker. This is an impromptu live stream. I have received an email from Liz from Hampshire, who is an unbaptized publisher. Has been studying on and off with Jehovah's Witnesses for around 40 years and sent in an email. I have it in front of me with quite a few points of grievance against yours truly and this channel. I asked Liz if she would be agreeable to come on and discuss these points with me, and very kindly she agreed to do so. So we welcome to the Lloyd Evans channel Liz from Hampshire. Welcome, Liz.
Hello.
Hi.
I didn't realise this was going to be an open forum, but hey ho, it doesn't matter. So
well, I literally said in the email, would you like to come on the channel for a live stream? So that's what that meant.
Okay, fine. I don't always understand computer speed. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm here.
Okay. So do you want to verbalize your email, or do you want me to go through it point by point and read it and then you expand on anything?
Yeah, if I can get this email up. But basically, when I accidentally stumbled on what I call Jehovah bashing sites, and obviously you came up, and that's what sort of started my sort of investigation into Jehovah Witness bashing. I was advised not to. But anyway, I just felt that not just your side, but other sides were not telling the actual truth about witnesses and actual lies. Example, and things weren't always transparent. You know, looking at your video of, can't remember what his name is, one of the governing body in a supermarket looking at the whiskey.
Anthony
and then
Morris.
you see him.
I actually have a picture of him here. So, is this the video that you're referring to?
It's still yeah, that's it, yeah. Well, you didn't actually see him buying the whiskey, and then you see him in the car park putting a box in his car, which is quite a small box. There's no way you got bottles of whiskey in there. But even if, so there's no evidence to support that he actually bought this whiskey, but if he did, so he might buy in bulk. He might have bought some of it for gifts. There are all number of reasons why he may have bought 12 bottles of whiskey, if he did. So what was the point in that? What was the point in that video?
Right, so first of all, if I could just address the first criticism, which is that of JW bashing. I've titled this video, Quit the JW Bashing. I kind of object to that because I understand why you characterize my channel in that way. My attitude is that I actually think that the vast majority of Jehovah's Witnesses are kind, loving, honorable people. And I don't think they deserve to be lied to and manipulated by their leadership. So I actually think very highly of Jehovah's Witnesses, which is why I do the work that I do. I'm not in the business of bashing individual Jehovah's Witnesses. It's the leadership I aim my criticisms at. So that's the first thing I just wanted to say. Second of all, regarding Bottlegate, we did an in-depth live stream where we covered all of the bases. Basically, we received this footage from somebody who contacted then JW Survey, now JW Watch, and said, I saw Anthony Morris in the local liquor store and I have the footage. Do you want it? So I said yes. And this individual shared a lot of information about what was actually in the trolley. You see not just the trolley with the Macallans in it, in the video footage, but you also see briefly Tony Morris paying for the booze and also loading it into his car. Now, just because you see a clip where he's loading one box into his car doesn't mean that that's all that there was, because he wasn't, the whole thing wasn't filmed. It was just a brief clip. Now, you can decide for yourself whether you think this is an issue or not. I think it's an issue. Clearly, the 200,000 people who watched the video, many of them thought it was an issue, judging by the comments, because when you are a leader of a religion numbering into the millions and you're literally disfellowshipping people on grounds of alcoholism, what message does it send? And also, Anthony Morris, as a governing body member, is supposed to take a vow of poverty. He's supposed to live a modest lifestyle. He's also producing videos telling children to part with their ice cream money as donations to the organization. So how can someone who's asking children to go without ice cream be buying expensive booze in that way? Those are questions that I have and many other people have. I understand if you don't have those questions, but nonetheless, it's a conversation that's worth having when we're talking about someone who is one of the leadership of a religion numbering into the millions.
Lost the sound. I lost you then. Can you hear me still?
I can hear you, yeah. I'm sorry you lost me. I don't know which part I should repeat.
I've got you now. Yeah, I just missed the last sentence. But I still personally think it's misleading. I've just got my email up. I agree with you. It's nice that you say that, generally you think that JWs are nice people, and they are. My experience has been, I've been hovering for like 40 years, has been nothing but kindness and genuine people. The business, I'm going to hop around a bit here, but it's like the business of shunning when people have been disfellowed. I've not experienced that. I mean, the first lady I studied with, her husband had been disfellowed. I don't know why. I never knew why. He is now back in the truth. But he wasn't shunned. It just wasn't talked about, basically. So when I hear of all shunning and what have you, I think, well, I haven't experienced that. I've not seen that.
Well, respectfully, Liz, you haven't been a Jehovah's Witness for the past 40 years. You're now an unbaptized publisher.
No.
You can literally only be disfellowshipped and therefore shunned if you are baptized as a Jehovah's Witness. So I'm sure hopefully your argument isn't just because I haven't experienced it, therefore it's not a problem.
No, what I mean is I know someone who was disfellowed, but he wasn't shunned in any horrible way. It wasn't like he
was his wife a Jehovah's Witness?
Pardon?
Yeah, well, what? Was his wife a Jehovah's Witness? Was his wife a Jehovah's Witness?
Yes. So up as a witness.
So the rules say that if you are disfellowshipped, it's not like your wife should shun you. What you're doing is you're talking about one of the very few loopholes that there are in the disfellowshipping arrangement, where, for example, a child of like 11 or 12 who's disfellowshipped still gets to speak to their parents because they're still a child and they're still living under the roof, or a husband or wife who's a believer isn't to shun their disfellowshipped spouse. What you're doing is you're isolating some loopholes and ignoring the many instances where, for example, an 18, 19, 20-year-old will be booted out of the house, and this is even depicted in the Jehovah's Witness videos, is kicked out of the house and is treated as though they're dead. And this sort of behavior, this sort of ostracism, does lead to mental health issues, which you should know something about, because according to your email, you're a retired psychotherapist.
Yeah.
So you should know all about the trauma that comes from ostracism. So again, just because you haven't personally experienced it doesn't mean that it's not happening.
No, when I say I haven't experienced it, of course I haven't. I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, but I haven't seen all this ostracizing and shunning, even with mixing with the world. They don't go to, raves or anything like that, but I do know of witnesses who are friendly with their neighbours and everything else, and they'll perhaps look in at a barbecue, may not stay, but they try to be friendly. I mean, I just feel that they are blackened in a very detrimental way. And
are you suggesting that? Sorry, are you suggesting that shunning doesn't happen, even though it's literally depicted in Jehovah's Witness videos that are on the website?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I'm sure there's lots of things that are wrong. It's like I said with the abuse thing, because I got very upset about the two witness thing, which I didn't know about. And I had a Zoom meeting with one of the elders, and he explained their procedure in great depth. And that sort of reassured me, because I said, if I any hint, I said, I'm out the door, because I've worked, But I'm sure, looking at these cases in America where it's all hidden under the carpet and all this and what have you, my priority is you believe your right. You don't disbelieve them. I believe anybody who says I was abused, I believe them. They have, somebody has to prove that they're telling a lie, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm sure it does go on. So there's good and bad. That's what I call.
Well, in that case, you're thinking on child protection is more advanced than that of the religion you're defending. You and I are in agreement there.
I think I am. Yeah, I've re-looked at this. I looked up on the jw.org site on abuse. It was quite difficult to find something, but according to what I read, the standard procedure is that they will go to the whatever authority, whether it's child protection, social services, or the police, depending on there's lots of different situations within abuse. So they go by the guidelines. So I've been told.
Are you aware that I'm a core participant to the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse and part of the investigation, and someone who's been giving evidence to ICSA regarding child sexual abuse?
No, but I'm not saying it doesn't happen or hasn't happened.
So all I will say is I know a lot about this, and also I've been an elder, and I know more now about this subject than I did as an elder. So just because someone's an elder doesn't mean even they know everything about this. But let's just for argument's sake say that there is a problem. Do you think that if you go on jw.org, it's going to say, yes, we're God's one and only true organisation on the earth. We're the one and only channel of guidance from God on the earth right now. But we do have a horrendous problem with child sexual abuse. Do you expect them to say that?
No, they're not going to say that, are they?
No.
But there again, you see, there's a lot of manipulation on both sides, and you're becoming a very good talker. And I am very aware that you are going to manipulate anything that I say, and I'm trying. I'm not very.
I'm very anxious to let you speak for yourself, because I respect you as a person, and I want to hear your views.
I haven't been able to sort of prepare for this. I'm just sort of quickly looking down my email. For me, like getting back to that video thing, I still say, so what? If he was intoxicated, that would be a different matter. But he wasn't, I don't think. He didn't look it anyway. And also, I've been trying very quickly. I got your book up on my Kindle, very quickly trying to find the bit. I remember you saying something about when you had your first child and you went to a friend's house for your first Christmas. Am I getting this right?
Yes.
And how wonderful it was. If you're an atheist, why are you celebrating Christmas? I don't get that. To me, that's double standards. I can understand. I used to love Christmas. I didn't understand it, but I enjoyed the time off from work. I enjoyed the, indulgence of food and everything. But to me, it was never been a religious thing. But it is hypocrisy, really. But that was your first experience of a Christmas, I gather, because you were brought up as a witness, weren't you?
Yeah. So. Well, in the context of me misleading people and lying to people and trying to manipulate people, I'm not sure where this fits in. But
I didn't say that.
If the question is, why do you as an atheist celebrate Christmas? It's because it's now more of a secular holiday than it is a religious holiday. Just as Jehovah's Witnesses believe that Christians stole Christmas from the pagans, I believe that secularists and atheists have stolen Christmas from the Christians. So in other words, Christmas can be whatever you make it. Now, as it happens, I'm not massively into Christmas. It's just something I've noticed that children absolutely love. And I'm determined not to deny my children that experience when I can see how much joy and pleasure it brings them, and when I can see absolutely no detrimental elements to it whatsoever. So that's my justification as an atheist for celebrating Christmas.
Well, you can have that sort of celebration any time of the year. It doesn't have, because with Christmas comes the Christmas tree and everything else, the Christmas carols, and Jesus Christ was born on Christmas Day. That rubbish. So
we don't have to sing Christmas carols, Liz. We don't have to sing Christmas carols, and we don't have to say anything whatsoever about Jesus. You'd be amazed at how easy it is to celebrate Christmas, literally just giving presents and having the tree and watching Sound of Music or The Great Escape or whatever. You'd be amazed at how easy that is.
Yeah, well, you can do that any time of the year. It doesn't have to be Christmas. And I like that spontaneity. Oh, you dig something in a shop. Oh, my friend Susan would like that. So you buy it and you give that person a gift, and or you throw a party for your friends and have whatever. It doesn't have to be Christmas, because it does signify a religious event, so-called religious event, the birth of Christ and all that. I think that's double standards, personally.
Okay.
But that, again, it's your free will. You do what you think is right, and I'll think differently.
Okay.
But getting back to I've got a split with I'm believing, it's a case of faith, whether you believe in the Bible or you don't. But then you've got the man-made stuff, as you're saying, about the governing body and certain things, and I'm questioning some of what I call the man-made rules. And I am questioning that. And but I look at the organisation, I think, as I say, it's all free. I have never, in the 40 years of my association with them, have ever been asked. I've got hundreds of books, like the ones behind you, and all the magazines. Never been, even when I went to the Kingdom Hall, and we started off at a Masonic hall in our town, and then they built their Kingdom Hall. I didn't even know where the collection box was, and I was told where it was, and I couldn't even find it. Every on these sites, not your site. There's Freeview channels here in England where I accidentally again found it one evening, and it's all these religious, the Jewish Christian or something, and it's called Inspiration. But it's all donate here, subscribe here, buy my videos. We need your donations to continue the work. And I thought that's a big difference between you, the witnesses. Nobody gets paid. As I say, I've seen, elders roll their sleeves up and clean toilets. As I said in my video and my email, that you wouldn't see the Archbishop of Canterbury doing that, would you? So there's a lot for it, and I sort of think, well, every time I ask a question with them, they do answer it, and they do seem to back up a lot of their stuff with evidence. And getting onto your book, sometimes you quote a scripture and you'll say chapter, but you don't give us.
Well, if it's okay with you, Liz, so that we can make some progress here, if you don't mind, I'd like to answer what you've just said about donations.
Yeah.
Are you attending the 2021 Powerful by Faith convention?
The what? Sorry,
are you attending?
Your sound's gone.
Are you attending the 2021 Powerful by Faith convention?
I've watched it on the video. I've watched it.
Okay. So coming up on Saturday afternoon of the convention, there is actually a symposium item titled "Enter the Door to Activity and Faith, Set Something Aside for Jehovah's Work." When it says "set something aside for Jehovah's work," what do you think they might mean?
What watched. Mind you, I didn't go into the end. I'm looking at. Oh, here it's at the back. Look, see, I've got this.
Yeah, sure.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
I've read it. This connect is being translated in 400 voluntary contribution. Help support this worldwide work. You'll donate online. Yeah, but it's not in your face, is it?
Well, what my point is that there's a symposium item. Ordinarily, I think many of your points are quite difficult to refute. It's just that you've picked an interesting convention season to raise this point in, because there's a symposium item coming up on Saturday afternoon of the convention that's literally titled "Enter the Door to Activity and Faith. Set something aside for Jehovah's work." I'm telling you now, when it says set something aside, it's not talking about sweeties. It's talking about cash. No. And you'll see this for yourself. We also had the JW Broadcasting episode, May 2015, where Stephen Lett said, you know, we have more going out of the organization than we have coming in at present, so we need you to donate more money. This is coming from an organization that has always traditionally, going back to Charles Taze Russell, said, the minute we need to start asking for money, we will cease publication of the Watchtower. And so we're definitely seeing a shift in that direction. But even if I were to grant you that there's no solicitation for donations, and I don't, because we even have cartoons asking Caleb and Sophia to give their ice cream money, even if I were to grant you this, merely by virtue of the fact that this is free doesn't mean it's not a cult. You can have a cult that tries to ensnare people by offering its information free of charge. Simply being free of charge doesn't make it the truth. And I'm sure you wouldn't argue along those lines, but that's what it sort of sounds like.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But you have to admit, do you know of any other religions that have this website? I mean, anybody can go into jw.org and get all that information, watch videos, and
Do I know of any other religions that have websites? Yes, quite a few.
Yeah,
LDS.org, Scientology.org.
Not with the jw.org, where you can go into the Bible and just look up scriptures at a touch of a finger. They have all these amazing, whether you believe in God or not, and you want to do research, they have these amazing sites and videos that you can watch, and it is all for free, and it's open to everybody. I've looked at some of these things on the television, and I've gone into the site, but you've got to donate to get into the site.
I'm not sure what this has to do with. I'm not sure what it has to do with JW bashing, and I'm not sure how it proves that it's God's one true religion.
Because you're saying that they're asking for money now. Well, I didn't even notice that, to be honest.
I've just literally given you multiple examples of how they do ask for money, including making cartoons where they ask children to part with their ice cream money. Yeah.
Well, I've not seen that.
Okay.
I haven't seen that at all. All I can say is that in 40 years, I have never been asked for any money.
Sure. So now that I've addressed that complaint, do you have another one? I have quite a few in front of me if you need me to jog your memory.
I'm just looking. Yeah, I've got here. I have doubts about the man-made rules that are not in the Bible. And I personally, I don't like anything to do with tick boxing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
if you don't mind me asking,
is going like that. You have to tick all the boxes.
Sure. I'm with you there, Liz. If you don't mind me asking, this is probably a bit personal, but you say that you've been on and off studying for 40 years, and you're now an unbaptized publisher. So what were you finding difficult over that 40 years that was stopping you from getting baptized?
Because I was working hard. I had my horses, very into horses. And of course that wouldn't be allowed.
Sorry, could you just repeat that? It just broke.
And this is the
I do apologise. I do apologise. It just broke up a little bit there, Liz. Could you just repeat that? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I was very into horses, full-time job. Did you get that?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
I used to compete. I used to compete with my horse. I wasn't prepared to give up things and dedicate life to Jehovah. Now I'm retired, and other things, you know, I look at the evil in the world and everything else, the way everything's going, and it's always been there in my head, you know, about the Bible and everything. But I'm still at a point where I'm not sure I can absolutely 100% dedicate myself. I'm not getting that relationship, you know, at the moment, and I'm battling with it. However, I do believe that if you've got it, it's a great thing. It's great to have, because all the people I know in the congregation are happy. Well, they've all got their problems, obviously. It's the way, what annoys me, and this is why I'm talking today, is the way, and not just you, is the way they're portrayed. I mean, there's a film out, and I'm sure you've watched it, it's called Apostasy, and it's about a single mum. I don't know why she's single, up girls, etc., etc. And it's the most boring, saddest film I've ever seen. It's a total misrepresentation of JW. And I mean, because this young girl had a blood transfusion when she was a baby, because she had a blood disorder, she did eventually die. It was almost like she was made to feel guilty because she had obviously the courts overruled the parents, and she was given a blood transfusion. And it was just total. And she on her own, this mother, when she lost her daughter and she died, there was nobody with her. Now, I can tell you now, Lloyd, in our congregation, if she's ill, if there's a problem, all the sisters, if it's a female, all the sisters will be there to help them, to guide them. And if it's a brother, you know, I heard a story of a brother, not round here, in a different county, retired, aged, all he had was his car, couldn't afford to get his car mended, 900 quid, knock on the door, envelope given in his hand, 900 quid, there you go. He didn't have a clue who donated it, what brothers donated it. There you go get your car. That's the sort of thing I've experienced. And then I see films like that was put on the television, and I thought, what? It's nothing like that. This woman, when she came out of the hospital, her daughter had died, and she was on her own. And I thought she would not have
Liz,
been there.
I'm doing my very, very best to dignify you, because I appreciate you're clearly an intelligent woman, and you also are a mental health professional. I'm just struggling to understand how you seemingly can't grasp the fact that this was a fictional dramatization. So how can a fictional dramatization be a lie?
Yeah. Because it was a lie. It was portraying the JWs as cold, uncaring people, and they're not.
But just because
and it was actually produced.
But just because I know the guy who produced it. We're friends. So just because it portrayed Jehovah's Witnesses in a realistic light, you don't like it. You would have preferred a film that portrayed Jehovah's Witnesses in a positive light, and then it would have been truthful and accurate.
But that's not a realistic light. That's possibly his experience coming out.
So what if I were to tell you? What if I were to tell you that many of the dramatizations on JW Broadcasting are unrealistic and overly skewed in favor of promoting Jehovah's Witnesses as God's one and only true organization? What would you say to that?
Well, I'd say, where's the evidence? I'd like to see these things. I'd like to see it for myself.
Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence that nobody dies from refusing blood transfusions then? Where's the evidence that nobody? Where's the evidence that nobody receives cold, cruel, evil treatment from elders? Just because you've had a positive experience doesn't mean that's the experience of everybody who's been a Jehovah's Witness. And might I add, by your own admission, you haven't yet been a Jehovah's Witness. You've just been in and out over 40 years, and now you're an unbaptized publisher. And you're telling me, and currently 700 others, mostly I'm guessing who will be ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, who've actually been baptized and actually spent time as Jehovah's Witnesses and had a negative experience, you're telling us that we're lying, effectively.
You've gone again. Sorry, I lost the last few words.
I'm wondering on what basis you can tell myself, who's actually been a Jehovah's Witness for more than 2 decades, and feels apostasy is an accurate representation of the Jehovah's Witness religion, and 700 plus people who are currently watching this live stream, many of whom share my views and have themselves also been actual Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm wondering how you, as a lady who has never actually been a Jehovah's Witness for a single year, can say, actually, you're wrong and I'm right. My experience of never having been a Jehovah's Witness trumps your experience of having been a Jehovah's Witness for years or decades.
Yeah. That's your words, that's not mine. Did you get that?
Okay, so how would you put it? How would you put it? How would you put it then?
Well, I'm not, because I was going to say you are more familiar with the scriptures than I am, an elder, so you know more about it than I do on the biblical side, and probably in your experience is going to be different to somebody else's experience. Now, the guy that did produce that film, obviously, he must have had some bad experience when he was a witness.
He's just not allowed to make a film about it.
Different. Now,
he's only allowed to make a film about his experience if it's positive towards Jehovah's Witnesses, apparently.
No. What I'm saying is, I just felt, well, how about seeing the other side?
So
the good side of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
if Daniel Cockatello, and that's the name of the director, if Daniel Cockatello has a negative experience with Jehovah's Witnesses, and I've interviewed him, including the shunning that's portrayed, including the cruelty of the elders, he has to put that to one side, and to make you feel better, make a positive film about Jehovah's Witnesses, even though that's not been his experience. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, what I'm saying is, by putting that, why put that film out in the first place? Why are you sat here doing what you're doing? Why do you have to, I said, when I made out 2 A4 pages of questions for the, and I had 2 meetings on Zoom with the elders with all my questions. And it was about, the United Nations, when they affiliated with the United, and all that, and lots of stuff. And I did say, when I emailed the elder, I said, I have these questions. Now, I want to make it quite clear that if for any reason I do not go with my journey, I will never, ever, no matter what happens, turn against you or Jehovah. I will never basically do what you're doing, even if I have a bad experience. I don't understand why you have to be so vindictive. However, I do understand if somebody has had some trauma through being a Jehovah's Witness. I do understand that. Of course I do.
Okay.
But to haul it out publicly, I don't get it. So
here's my question. Evil, really. So here's my question, because just for the record, I'm not interested in changing your mind. If being a Jehovah's Witness is right for you, that's your call, and I have no interest in swaying you from that. But just for the sake of argument, let's imagine that the Jehovah's Witness religion is not just wrong, because we can all be wrong. We can all make mistakes, can't we? It's not just wrong, it's actually hurting people and being abusive and even killing people. Now, if you have an organization that's doing that, can you not understand why it might be helpful for people to speak out about it? And who else is going to speak out about it other than the people who have been hurt and the people who have been abused and the people who have been exploited?
Well, I think what you're talking about, killing people, is the blood issue. Now, my understanding, I'm only going by what I've been told and what I've read and everything else. If there's a child involved, the courts usually intervene if there's time. And obviously, sometimes there isn't the time and a child may die. It's free choice. And
But
also,
it isn't really, though, is it?
You must have understood. Sorry?
It's not free choice, though, if you're literally told, and I know this because it's in the Shepherd book, I can show you if you like. It's not free choice if you're told, if you willfully and unrepentantly accept a blood transfusion, you disassociate yourself and therefore you'll be shunned by any Jehovah's Witnesses who know you. It's not really free choice if there's a threat attached. And even if we put the whole blood transfusion to one side and focus purely on, is this organization abusive? Yes or no? Is this organization hurting people? Yes or no? If it's a yes, why do you think people should be quiet about it? And how do you think the solution? How do you think there's going to be a solution to all of this hurt and all of this abuse if everyone stays quiet?
Okay. Well, I forgot what I was going to say then, but I don't. For me, it's a choice, and I don't think it's an abusive organisation. Why did you? I know you were brought as a witness. As an adult, why did you become an elder? What's changed? I know you question things.
Why did I leave? I left because.
Why did you become an elder?
Oh, why did I become an elder? Because at the time I believed, and it was sort of expected of me as a man in the congregation. So I did what was expected of me, and I also did my very best with the knowledge that I had to try to help people. But in the brief time that I was an elder, I don't mind telling you that I didn't like what I saw. And even though when I stopped being an elder, I was still a believing Jehovah's Witness, it still very much disturbed me that what you see when you're actually an elder is something that's very, very human and very, very political. And it just wasn't pleasant. But I became an elder because it was what was expected of me.
But you had a choice. You were probably a mature man when you became an elder. You weren't a child.
Are you likening?
Why did you? I still don't understand. You're trying to.
Are you likening becoming an elder to refusing or accepting a blood transfusion?
No. I think I'm under the understanding now, and again they sort of changed a little bit, that it's really between you and Jehovah, your choice. I'm really not au fait with the blood thing, really. On whether I know with this COVID thing, they were worried about any blood, within the vaccinations, but there isn't. But we had a guidance that said that they were leaving it up to us to decide what to do.
Yeah, I'm actually for the record, I'm very relieved that the organisation has had that stance on vaccines, and I've actually praised on this channel. There are things that I disagree with the organisation about its COVID handling, but as far as the social distancing is concerned and the closing of Kingdom Halls and the switching on to Zoom, I've actually praised Jehovah's Witnesses on this channel for doing that. I could find you multiple examples of where I've done that.
No, they're pretty on the ball with that. I don't understand why. I would understand if you had suffered some sort of trauma. I mean, emotional trauma because you were having the battle. Yeah,
I have suffered trauma.
Yeah, but
do you want to hear about my trauma?
Well, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, so I was baptized at the age of 11. So, you're talking about potentially getting baptized, after having been in and out of the organization for 40 years. I was indoctrinated as a child, got baptized at the age of 11, long before I was old enough to sign contracts or enter into employment or open a bank account or anything like that. And I was held to this decision right up to the age of 30 when I discovered that it's actually not true and I wanted to leave. And as a result of making a conscientious decision that I could not promote an organization that I knew to be not true, I had my family turned against me, to the point where my father, who is an elder up in Manchester, Wilmslow, he hasn't yet met my two girls, my two daughters. One is aged 7, one is aged 2. He hasn't met them. We recently had a 6 magnitude earthquake back in December, and he wasn't even interested to find out how we were doing and whether we needed help. So when I speak about trauma, this whole shunning, disfellowshipping thing, which you were kind of skirting around before and suggesting isn't really an issue because you've not experienced it, I'm here to tell you it's very much something that I've experienced. And I believe people who come on my channel and tell me that it's affected them in all sorts of ways. I've even heard, if you watch the Leah Remini Scientology Aftermath special, I've even heard of people committing suicide. Again, this shouldn't be news to you as someone who's been a mental health professional, that ostracism can have this effect on people. You know, if it's really the truth, then why don't you just let people leave if they stop believing? It's one thing to shun people on moral grounds because you believe there's been some act of wrongdoing, but why make the family, even the family, do that? And why extend the same penalty towards people who conscientiously can no longer bring themselves to believe? This is an infringement of human rights, because in Article 18 of the Universal Declaration, it says that you should be free to follow any religion you want, which incidentally is what the Jehovah's Witnesses invoke whenever they're fighting for the religious freedom of Jehovah's Witnesses in places like Russia. But the same article also says you should also be free to leave if you want, without punishment. So why punish people who can just no longer bring themselves to believe, and go one step further and say, actually, these people are mentally diseased? And I don't mind giving you a spoiler. There's going to be language in this convention, in this year's convention, referring to what they say as poison repeatedly. So it's one thing to pursue moral purity. It's another thing entirely to break apart families. That's when we start getting into the abusive side of things. And how on earth are we going to talk about these issues and maybe do something about them if no one is allowed to say anything negative in any way, shape or form, either on YouTube or elsewhere, which seems to be what you're advocating?
Yeah, I missed the last few words, but it works both ways, Lloyd. People have been shunned because they've become Jehovah's Witnesses by their families. But what you're saying, I mean, again, that's your experience. I mean,
okay, do you want me to tell you the difference? Do you want me to tell you the difference between someone shunning someone because they've become a Jehovah's Witness? Okay, so if let's say my daughter Jessica decides when she's older that she wants to become a Jehovah's Witness. Now, I'm telling you for a fact that nothing my daughter does is ever going to make me want to shun her. That's just never going to happen. But let's say she did become a Jehovah's Witness. Yeah, but let me finish. Let's say she did become a Jehovah's Witness and I shunned her, okay? That would be my choice. It's different when you have an organization that is literally ordering families to shun disfellowshipped ones, to the point of making highly polished videos promoting this idea that they are disloyal if they don't shun them, and promoting this idea that they too are sinful in some way. So that's the difference. In the small instances that the organization points to where someone's shunned because they become a Jehovah's Witness, that really is a free choice issue. And by the way, parents who do that would be crappy parents. But with Jehovah's Witnesses, it's mandated, and there is highly polished propaganda pushing parents to make that decision, even if they didn't want to do that, even if it runs against their humanity. So that's the difference that I'm explaining to you.
Well, again, I'm not seeing that. I mean, the elder that I've known for years, he has a son that's not a witness, and he's got some problems. He's got mental health, but they don't shun him. He's got other family and he mixes with them. I don't see that, you see. I don't see.
So if you don't see it,
I never say, well, you're not baptized.
If you personally don't see it as someone who's never actually been a Jehovah's Witness, it's not something to worry about, seems to be your argument.
I'm associating with them, Lloyd. I see what goes on. I see the families that are mixing with non-Jehovah Witnesses. They're not shunning them. I mean, you're throwing that at me every time. I'm not baptized. It doesn't. I've been to things. I've seen things. It's better to stand on the outside and look in because you look at it objectively. I'm not biased because I can actually. I'm not gonna. But there are things that I'm not happy about, and I question it. But every time I've had a study, they have encouraged me to question. It hasn't been, oh, shut up and put up type of attitude. It's, yeah, well, and if I don't know the answer, if they don't know the answer, I will find out for you. You know, if I've thrown a question at somebody and they think, oh, I'm not sure about that, I'll find out for you. And I have not experience a lot of what you've been coming out with, and I'm not saying that it doesn't happen because obviously everybody's experience is different. Why does one woman who's been raped by the side, one can learn to live with it and get on with her life, and the other one can't? We're all different, and we all
so what we have at this point
differently.
What we have at this point, Liz, are multiple videos on the jw.org website, which you seem quite keen on, by the way. Multiple videos encouraging shunning. We have shunning encouraged in the publications to the point where it says you haven't seen the pro-shunning videos on jw.org.
No, pro-shunning, right.
So what you should do is go on jw.org and write in disfellowshipping, and then when it starts giving you search results, click on videos, and you will immediately see the pro-shunning propaganda videos that are produced, reminding parents to shun their children.
Okay.
We have an organisation that's producing these videos promoting shunning. We have an organisation that's printing material saying don't even email people who've been disfellowshipped, even if they are relatives. We have an organisation that's referring to former believers as mentally diseased. So, in other words, diagnosing mental illness in someone just because they've stopped believing. And we have an organisation that is in some cases, well, we have an organisation where 900 people currently watching this live stream will attest to the cruel effects of this shunning. But if you feel that your personal experience as someone who's never been a Jehovah's Witness, who is a bystander, who is an impartial observer, trumps all of this material and all of this weight of testimony, then you go right ahead. Again, I have no interest in stopping you from embracing a religion you're apparently quite keen on, because it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any difference to me what you believe.
No, but these videos you keep talking about, I've not seen them. I haven't seen them. I will try and find them.
Could it be that I know more about this subject than you do?
I'm not suggesting that I know more than you. No way. I'm a rookie at this. This is why I'm researching. I want to find the truth, basically.
Good for you.
But all I see on these YouTube things are people, like there was some woman, and I think she was in Australia, going on about their Bible, the Green Bible. Oh, it's about time they updated it. Well, hello, it's been updated years. I've got one here. And she's just talking a load of BS, you know. And that's what I've seen on what I call it JW bashing, for want of a better word. And a lot of the time there is no real evidence to some of the things. I'm not talking about the abuse side of things, because I'm very sensitive about that, and I do agree that it goes on. Of course it does. It goes on everywhere. But I just don't like it when I watch something and I'm thinking, well, that's not right. Where's there evidence for that? Or, you know, and you haven't got a voice, because I didn't know we could do this, and I didn't know I'm being observed by other people. I think it was just you and me. But I've got nothing to hide. I'm searching. I won't find it, because, as I say, it's easy to believe the lie than to believe the truth. And people will go that way. And that's not biblical. That's my experience as a mature woman. People would rather believe a lie.
I agree. And it's easy to lie, isn't it? You can lie. It only takes a few seconds to tell a lie, but it then can take days or weeks to explain how it's a lie, because you then have to bring forward the evidence to show that it's a lie. And that's one of the problems that I have doing the work that I do. I know you're going to disagree with me, but I'm routinely coming up against lies in Jehovah's Witness materials. And it takes moments to say it, but it takes me extra effort to explain how it's a lie and how it's misleading. So I totally relate to you there. But for the record, I value truth. I'm not interested in orienting my life around falsehood. I want to use my time on this planet, my finite time on this planet, as productively as possible. And that means only believing what's true. And it's this fastidious obsession with truth that's led me to the conclusion that Jehovah's Witnesses don't have it. You know, hopefully you understand that I'm sincere from that point of view, even if you happen to disagree.
I think you are, but I think you've allowed yourself to be misled a little bit. But without sounding rude or personal, are you making a living out of this?
Yes, I am. So at the moment, I'm looking at about £7,000 worth of camera equipment. That's not to mention the MacBook that we're having this conversation on, the lighting, the studio that's been built just for this channel. I also have a full-time video editor who I pay. He's a salaried employee of mine. I pay him every single month to edit my videos. Are you suggesting that all of this should be done out of my pocket and I shouldn't let people who want to donate towards it?
No, I just don't understand why you want to do it. You know, why can you not just say, okay, I don't believe in it all, it's a load of, you know, and I'm just going to walk away, get a job, raise my family, be part of the world.
I've already given you the answer to that question. I've already answered that question, and it seems you didn't hear me. So again, I explained before that you can have a religion that's wrong. Again, we all make mistakes. We could say something that turns out to be factually inaccurate. That's fine. But you can also have a religion that's both wrong and abusive and hurting people and ruining lives. And if it steps over into being abusive and hurting people, the only way you're going to fix the problem is if people are speaking out about it. And enough people believe in my channel and what I'm doing and the things I'm saying and my efforts to expose an abusive group that they're helping me pay for all of this. I don't go chasing them round saying, by the way, your children need to give their ice cream money towards my Patreon. I let people decide for themselves whether they want to be patrons or not.
Yeah, but you're making a living out of it. It's not just paying for the equipment.
Yeah, I don't do it. I don't have to do. Again, I don't have to pay my video editor out of my own pocket, and I don't have to buy £7,000 worth of camera equipment out of my own pocket if there are people who believe in what I'm doing and want to pay for those things for me, and even want to pay me a salary so that I can commit hours and hours and hours to debunking the material that's put on the jw.org website that's misleading and abusive. I don't have to do all of that purely out of the kindness of my heart because I owe it to the universe. That's not how things work.
Okay. I appreciate your honesty. But I do think, I was trying to think that there was a term that we use in the way I work about splitting, and it's either all good or all bad. And people with personality disorders can't look at the grey areas, you know. And it seems to me that that's what you're doing. We're all bad. They're all bad. You are saying there is some good, that individual people are good, which they are, but there's so much, out there that I see that's not, again, okay, you keep throwing at me that I'm not a baptized witness. No, I'm not, but we made friends with them, and I've watched, I look at things, I watch people, and I listen to what's being said. And you said in your book about homosexuals that they will say, that they've got to change. Well, actually, I asked the question that because some of my colleagues are gay, or colleagues that I had were gay, and I've worked with, clients were gay. But they said it's not, it's the act that, because in the Bible it says it's abhorrent to Jehovah. They will accept, you can study with them, but you can't be baptized or go out on the ministry if you are a practicing homosexual. If you are celibate, you can get baptized. I mean, how you prove that, I don't know. How do you prove? It's like a pedophile. You can have a pedophile, I'm a pedophile, but I've never acted on my feelings.
Okay, you raised a couple of points there.
That they are just against homosexuals, end of story.
You raised a couple of points there, which I would like to answer because they're really good points. Okay. Well, they're very clear points that deserve a good answer. So, first of all, I share your disdain for, as you call it, splitting. I call it black and white ideology. It's either black or it's white. Yeah. It's either this or it's that. Yeah. So in my own position as an ex-Jehovah's Witness activist, I take a nuanced approach. I, for example, have been on BBC radio speaking out against the persecution of Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia. Because just as I think that it's wrong that human rights are violated when it comes to shunning, I also think it's wrong that the human rights of Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia are being violated by their worship being made illegal. So when you talk about splitting and being black and white, I like to think that that doesn't describe the position I take, because the position I take is a nuanced position. I'm not bashing individual Jehovah's Witnesses. I am raising criticisms against a leadership that I believe is exploiting and lying to them. And it's because I care about Jehovah's Witnesses and dignify them as people that I think that they deserve to hear both sides of the argument. That's what I would say on the black and white issue. On the homosexual issue, how would you feel? I'm assuming you identify as a straight lady. How would you feel if you were told, well, being straight isn't a sin so long as you don't act upon it? As long as you spend your entire life without having heterosexual sex, you'll be okay and you won't be destroyed at Armageddon. How would you feel?
But that's not the way it is it?
No, it isn't. And I'm asking you to show some empathy. I'm asking you to show some empathy because you say that you've had friends and colleagues who've been gay.
So, all I can say is that I've often said to people when they are very rude about homosexuals, and I'll say, well, look, how would you feel if you woke up tomorrow morning and you didn't fancy women, you only fancied men? Because how would you feel? And they say, oh, well, I couldn't put up with that. You can't change people. You can't, that is who they are. But I understand the point is, and I think this is the point you tend to miss, they believe in the Bible, full stop. It's their interpretation of the Bible. And in the Bible, it says it is abhorrent to Jehovah. So it's the act. If somebody is gay, that's fine. They don't, but it's if they act on it, if they are participating homosexuals, that's wrong. But if they are celibate, and again, I don't know you would prove it if a gay man came along and said, I want to study, I'm gay, but I'm not in a relationship, and I don't intend to be in a relationship. How you prove that, I don't know. That would be between him or her, conscience and Jehovah. But they're not against homosexuals in principle. It's the act. So we need to separate
and what I'm
that,
saying,
you know.
what I'm saying, Liz, is that the two are interlinked. You don't just separate. You don't just surgically remove someone from their sexuality and say, oh, it's okay for us to be homophobic so long as we're telling gay people that they're fine as long as they don't have sex. I'm saying that that's wrong. I'm saying that when it says in the Bible, when it says in the Bible at Leviticus 20 verse 13 that gay people should die, I think that that is morally abhorrent, and I don't think that is a standard that we should be living by in the 21st century. And I think that telling people that they're not allowed to have sex with a consenting adult is sexual repression, and it can mess with people's heads in all sorts of sinister ways. So that's an issue where I take a more That's an issue where I take a more more sexual. That's an issue where I take a more secular, atheistic viewpoint. I'm sure that you will be able to find many ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who consider themselves Christians and who identify with your apparent support for Leviticus 20 verse 13. But I, for myself, think it's absolutely abhorrent, and I'm happy to stand by that. But again, that it's my humanism that informs that perspective.
No, you're suggesting that I would want homosexuals put to death. No, I didn't say that. You're saying it's in Leviticus. That's nothing to do with me or anybody else. Not at all. I'm saying you can't help.
So you condemn Leviticus 20 verse 13?
I haven't read it. So what I'm saying is that I would not.
I know your religion better than you, and I know your religion better than you, and I know your Bible better than you, it seems.
I did say at the beginning, you know more about scriptures than I do. But I don't disagree. I had this thinking a lot about what you said. I remember something you said about when you were growing up and everything else. And it must be very hard for a young man growing up as a witness that, we have normal, natural urges. Freud was very into the drives and the instincts, and it's got to be hard to repress those, particularly for young men. And I question that, But again, it all boils down to whether you believe in the Bible and whether you either believe it or you don't. You can't cherry pick. You can't say, I'll take a bit of that and I'll take a bit of that, and that will suit me, which is what a lot of other religions do.
Yeah, I agree.
There is that question. I agree with you. It's hard. Again, it doesn't affect me. I'm a mature woman, and I'm not young and single and thinking, oh, well, I can't sleep with my boyfriend, because I'm a Jehovah's Witness and he's a Jehovah's Witness and we can't do it, but we're crazy for it.
I suppose the question you might ask, and again, I'm not interested in persuading you either way, but purely from a kind of a thought experiment point of view, is, just because it's in the Bible, does this mean that Jehovah's Witnesses have the truth? Because obviously there are lots of Christian fundamentalists who believe that homosexuality is a sin and is wrong, and that the homosexual act is abhorrent. And they base all of this on verses like Leviticus 20 verse 13, but they're not Jehovah's Witnesses. So just because the Bible condemns it doesn't mean that the Jehovah's Witness belief system is valid. And this is one area in which I have a problem both against the Bible and Jehovah's Witnesses, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. But again, we've got, again, it's this splitting thing. We've got the world, we've got the way I've been conditioned. I keep saying this. I've got 70 years of conditioning. And it's hard for me to change to certain things that they expect me to do to get to baptism. And that goes for everybody. And, you've got, if you're to religion, you've got the Bible standards and you've got the worldly standards that you are sort of brought up to. And it's very difficult to get a balance, I guess. I can sort of see where you're coming from, but you keep throwing this. I'm trying to look it up in my Bible, the Leviticus thing, but I'm sure the Jehovah's Witnesses don't say that homosexuals should be put to death.
Well, that's very much what they say. They don't. they don't encourage. So just to be clear, they're not encouraging squads of elders to go around executing gay people, but they do very much say that if you are a gay person and you have healthy sexual relationships with consenting adults who are themselves gay, you deserve to die when Armageddon comes. And by the way, Armageddon is imminent. So they outsource the killing of homosexuals to God at Armageddon, at an imminent Armageddon.
Okay. Well, I've not heard anybody say that personally, because I have quite often said I've had, you know, gay colleagues and what have you, and you know, I just accept the way people are. People are what they are, you know. So I mean, but we're sort of getting.
And I have a lot more time. By the way, might I say, Liz, I have a lot more time for your perspective on this than I have for the Jehovah's Witness perspective. It seems that your perspective is far more rounded and balanced, if you don't mind me saying.
No, well, as you keep saying to me, I'm not baptized. So I'm very open. I've always had an open mind, and I question. That's what's got me here today, and I'm not sure I'm going to regret this, but this meeting. But you know, I question everything, and if I see a video, you know, me getting back to that film, you say you're a friend of I thought it was the producer, director, producer, whatever. It was, for me, a total misrepresentation of the witnesses that are, and obviously he or she, I don't know if it's a male or female, have had a very bad experience, and that came through to me. It was the most, I don't know, dark, depressing thing I've ever watched on the TV, and it left me absolutely speechless, because, you know, it was a misrepresentation. And again, to me, it's that black and white. They're all bad. It's like they're all bad. It's not like that in my eyes. And I do feel that having an open mind, you see the grey areas. It's not all good or all bad. They're grey area. And I think it's sad. You know, I do know that there are many people out there who have experienced trauma. It doesn't have to be sexual abuse, but we all experience some sort of trauma at work or whatever, and it affects us all differently. And I find that quite, you know, sad. That I just still sort of, I said to you in my email that you seem to have an axe to grind, and something's gone very deep inside you, Lloyd, with this. And I'm not here to give you a therapy session, but I feel that there's more to you than I'm seeing. You know, I mean, I just feel there as to why that you have this drive to do what you're doing.
Well, I did explain that a little bit earlier, the fact that, you know, literally my Jehovah's Witness elder father hasn't met my 2 children yet and is shunning us, and didn't seem to care whether we'd lived or died in a 6 magnitude earthquake. So it is quite personal to me. But in terms of having an axe to grind, I do sharpen my axe for liars and abusive people, but I try to sharpen it as sharply as possible so that I hit my target and don't hurt or cause undue offence or insult to those to whom my criticisms are not aimed. And my criticisms are not aimed towards you or individual Jehovah's Witnesses. I feel very strongly that when you have authorities that slip into abusive practices, the only way you solve that problem is by talking about it. And that's what I'm doing on this channel. That's the axe that I'm grinding. And what you call JW bashing, I call speaking out against abuse. Sure, yeah.
Okay. So can I just ask one more question? You're talking about the governing body and they're manipulative and propaganda and all that. What's their motivation? What do you feel is their motivation? Because they're not paid. They're not paid. I mean, there must be some sort of kickback on that, but basically they're not paid. They're not salaried to do what they do.
That's a good question.
So what's their motivation?
Yeah, it's a good question. I have been asked that before by my viewers, and it's clear that they're not short of a few bob, personally, but I don't think. I don't think that. I don't think that money is their motivation, if that's what you're asking. I think that power.
No, it's not. It can't be.
I think that power is their motivation. I think that the more power you give someone, to the point where you're in a position where you can micromanage the lives of 8.5 million people around the world. There's that old saying, power corrupts, absolute power. Power corrupts absolutely. I think the more power you give someone, the more the power itself becomes intoxicating, and you do everything you can to hold on to it, even if it means treading on others. And I fear that that's the situation we're in with the governing body.
I don't know, what have they got?
Sorry?
I mean, what powers have they got? I mean, apart from, they call them shepherds, they're shepherding the flock. But what powers do they have? I mean, power is usually when I suppose you'd say they control us. Power is control.
They can literally tell Jehovah's Witnesses what kind of trousers to wear, that sort of power. It's very all-encompassing, When we're at the point where you can... When we're at the point where you can tell people not to pursue higher education, or in your case, not pursue a professional career in sports or in horse racing or whatever, that's an awful lot of power. And that's the sort of power that some men like to hold on to, even if it means trampling on others.
But that's like an individual thing. I mean, no, I don't get the power thing, because with the dress thing, we have women that wear trousers to the meetings. I know when I always wear trousers.
No, you don't. You don't have women wearing trousers to meetings. Come on.
We do here in Hampshire.
I'll need photographs, or it didn't happen. That's just that's not something that happens in Kingdom Halls.
When Kingdom Hall is open, I'll do it. I'll try to do that. I mean, I always wore. Yeah. I know I'm not baptized, but I always wore trousers, and I was never. That is something.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, that's it. Yeah, if they're not baptized, I can fully imagine women coming to the Kingdom Hall in trousers. Yeah. But once you're baptized, you need to be in subjection to your husband, and you need to not wear trousers.
Yeah, I can see that happening. Do have a gripe about the Zoom meetings, because when we have our meetings, the Tuesday and Sunday meetings, they expect the men are all there in their ties. And I've often said, well, I'm in the privacy of my own home. If I want to wear a T-shirt, well, they can't see what I'm wearing from the waist down, but, but I do put on a dress or whatever instead of my sloppy old T-shirt, I do have a gripe about that. But I've never been told you can't wear trousers to the Kingdom Hall. And also, I read somebody said, on the YouTube thing, men can't have beards. There are lots of beards, lots of elders. A young elder has just grown a beard. So that was
I know an elder. Rubbish. I know an elder who had a beard. And I also remember this elder. I also remember this elder shaving his beard off, because elders from other congregations complained that he was turning up to give talks with a beard and it was stumbling, so he had to shave it off.
There's quite a few of them. My friend, who's now in Australia, whose husband was disfellowed, he's got a beard. He's an elder.
We've learned that your experience of the Jehovah's Witness religion trumps that of however many hundreds of people are watching this live stream, and yours truly. But hopefully, if nothing else, I mean, I'm kind of hoping to wind things up, but hopefully, if nothing else, you've learned a little bit more about me and about how I feel about this subject and where my motivations are. And hopefully you also feel listened to, because you obviously sent in an email with lots of issues that you wanted to raise, and if nothing else, I've listened to you, haven't I?
Yeah, you have. But I do feel that you're becoming very good at the speak. You're very good at trying to manipulate what people say. And the one thing you have never mentioned, you obviously don't believe in God anymore. What about Satan? Obviously, you believe in Satan and the forces of evil. You see, I sort of think there's the good evil, there's the good forces, and there's evil forces. So where does that all come from?
Well, if I'm think about it yourself. Think about it yourself. If I'm an atheist, am I going to believe in Satan?
Well, no, presumably not.
No. But it's been a lovely conversation, and thank you for coming on the channel. And hopefully, some or all of what we've discussed is going to provide food for thought. I've certainly benefited from hearing your inputs, and hopefully the viewers have benefited as well. And the viewers can make what they will of what you've said and what I've said, and maybe you can monitor the comments and, you know, maybe answer any questions that come up in the comments below once this video is up on the channel. Okay.
I'm not sure how to work it, but yeah, whatever.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Liz. Take care. Bye-bye. So that was Liz from Hampshire, and that is possibly the longest conversation I've had with, I know she's not a Jehovah's Witness, but she is certainly an unbaptized publisher and certainly very much indoctrinated as a Jehovah's Witness. Can I just put a few of the super chats up on the screen? We've had Mr. Lerman saying, I disassociated when I was 17. The effect on my family was devastating, especially on my little brother. Lloyd, you're doing great work. If not for you, I might have gone back and regretted it. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. Still reeling from the fact that I've just had that conversation. Timon Ritko says, sending you tons of empathy, Lloyd. This is infuriating to watch, and I can't believe how hard it is to actually talk with her. You are awesome, Lloyd. Oh, thank you. Yeah, to be honest, I actually feel as though I was able to make more headway in that conversation than I actually expected. I sort of expected everything to get closed down and for me to not have chance to talk, because that's the situation you sometimes find yourself in when you're talking to people with very firmly entrenched beliefs. I was actually quite impressed, if I'm honest. Even though Liz and I very much disagreed with each other, I was actually quite impressed with how much she actually listened to what I was saying. It was a little bit obvious at times that she wasn't fully taking in what I was saying, but she was at least giving herself chance to listen. And I actually kind of admire that about Liz. I think it facilitated a very a meaningful exchange, more meaningful than I expected it to be, if I'm honest. The other super chats have disappeared from my view, but I do need to thank the African Humanist for your super chat, Like a Fox for your super chat, Eleonora Giovanni Official. Wow, lots of super chats were coming through during that conversation, and might I add, it, you know, for reasons I explained in the conversation, this stuff, you know, these donations along with the Patreon really do help the channel. Cody Downs, thank you for your generous support. Lisa Redhead, Nicole Mort Parker, thank you, Nicole. Wow, very, very generous. Doran Gist, and also Paul McCann with another jaw-droppingly generous super chat there. All again, all of it adds up, even if it's a smaller donation. All of that goes into the pot and helps me pay Tibor and buy equipment and that kind of thing. So thank you so much to all of you who sent in super chats. What we might now do, I think we have a little bit of time, is have a viewer invasion, because I'm kind of interested to know what others thought of the conversation with Liz. I know I can see Liz is actually watching, so Liz might be able to see some of the feedback herself. So producer Bob is now going to drop the link to the StreamYard into the chat. And thank you, Alt Worldly, for your super chat as well. Producer Bob's going to drop a link. And I'm not promising that we'll be able to take too many, but let's take at least a couple, 2 or 3, from those of you who've been watching along. So we have Watcher Metron. I can't see the full name, I'm afraid, but Watcher Metron, welcome. You are on the Lloyd Evans channel. Were you watching along?
Yeah, I was able to catch it.
Sure. And what did you make of it?
Oh, God. You know, I just noticed that whenever you're talking with Jehovah's Witnesses, like, you either have a zealot Bible thumper or you have this this kind of enthusiastic idiot. I know that sounds so horrible, but they or not. Yeah, no, I'm just going to say that they don't know how to defend their beliefs. You know, all they know how to do is get defensive and be sarcastic and jump all over the place. And it's kind of like, really? if that makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely don't think Liz can be described in quite that way. I think Liz is actually quite, and I'm mindful, by the way, that Liz is watching. I think Liz is actually quite an intelligent person. I feel as though, and she probably feels the same way about me, I feel as though her perception of reality is skewed by the indoctrination she's undergone throughout her life, off and on, over the last 40 years. So we're coming at this from different perspectives. I obviously feel that my perspective is more correct and more truthful than hers. But yeah, I know what you mean. It can be frustrating when you're coming up against the same objections that you're used to hearing from the organization. That's fair, isn't it, from what we were hearing in that conversation?
Well, I use the word idiotic because when you literally use a scripture that says gay people should die, and she's like, oh, well, I've never read that in the Bible. It's like, what do you mean? Like, aren't you supposed to be, reading your Bible every single day? When you read scriptures that, talk about, this, that, or the other, and they're just like, well, I never read that. Like, what do you mean you never read that? It's right there in the Bible. It's right there in the book that, you profess to believe and want to spread. And hey, read this, this will change your life.
Yeah.
Throw it at, I never read that. Well, it's there.
Yeah, that's awkward, isn't it? And I suspect that's a problem that spans, many branches of Christian fundamentalism, where people leap to the defense of the Bible without really knowing what's in it and really thinking about. Sometimes what's in it. I'm pretty sure Liz knows that there are verses like Leviticus 20:13 in the Bible. She certainly didn't contest that there couldn't be a verse like that. I think she knows deep down that there's stuff like that in, but perhaps she hasn't given herself permission to question the morality of it, if that makes sense.
Sure. No. I mean, people, as I said before, they get defensive and they become, they create all these, fanciful stories that they tell themselves. And so they're not. So what I notice is that they're not trying to convince us. They're trying to convince them. They're telling us the story that they tell themselves, that this is why I believe this. And that's why they go on this epic tale, if you will.
Yeah, it was certainly epic. That certainly describes it. I'm going to take another caller, but thank you so much for... Go on.
Wait.
Yeah.
Just one last thing. I just wanted to let you know that I am a twice disfellowshipped witness, both times for sexual immorality. I am trying to... I'm on the fence about making my way back, but old habits die hard.
Oh, you're on the fence about going back? Gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know how anyone could be on the fence about going back to something that's not true. Either it's true or it's not. So do you think it might be true?
Well, Well, Lloyd, here's my thing. What I enjoy about the Bible is that I believe that it has a lot of human truisms in it, and I do believe that geneticists say that we're affected by our genes some 700 to 900 years. So, and the reason why I bring that up is because we don't have enough time to change. Most of us barely live to 100. So a lot of the reasons why we do or say the things that we do, that's because our ancestors almost 900 years ago did the same thing. And so I feel that there's a lot of human truisms in the Bible. Because as I said before,
that's the Bible. I'm talking about Jehovah's Witnesses. You
right.
expressed the possibility of going back to Jehovah's Witnesses. So do you think that Jehovah's Witnesses might be true?
That's the thing. I don't believe that their entire interpretation is wrong, but definitely I do believe that they do take a lot of liberties. Like they will use liberties to say, oh, you have to cut your hair, you have to shave the beard, you got to wear a suit and a tie, and you have to, this, that, and the other. So yes, I definitely take issue with the liberties that they take with their narrative to say, you have to do this, you have to do that, even though there's no scripture in the Bible that says,
It sounds like you might have your answer, but I do just want to, because my screen's literally lighting up with people trying to get on. So, but thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Take care. And now we have Wendy. Welcome, Wendy.
Hello.
What did you think of the conversation?
It was actually wonderful. And wonderful because I have a lot of friends who are evangelicals, Mormons, and Jehovah's Witnesses back home, and it's always very difficult to talk with them, have conversations with them. And typically when I do go home to visit them, I usually end up in a coffee shop conversion therapy session with them, where they'll try to have a conversation with me, save my soul, pray for my soul, and things like that. And it's always been difficult for me to find ways of talking with them in a way that, makes it so they're not defensive or aggressive. And so I always try to be very calm and collected. But I have to say, watching you talk with her and have this conversation, it was very educational for me and almost awe-inspiring. So thank you very much for setting a good example. And I think we should definitely have more conversations like this.
Thank you. That's really kind of you to say. I wish I could have more conversations. It's just that for obvious reasons, they're hard to come by because Jehovah's Witnesses aren't encouraged to speak with former believers, with apostates. And I think that what's possibly happened here is that because, Liz is both, a smart, independent woman and also not yet baptized, that's kind of created a perfect storm where we've been able to have a meaningful conversation. But in the vast majority of cases, especially if it's a baptized Jehovah's Witness, they know that they're going to, quite frankly, get their bottom spanked by their elders if they were to even attempt what we've just had here, even if they were to be glowing about the organization and professing their loyalty to the governing body. And doesn't that say a lot by itself about the nature of the organization that we're up against if even conversations like the one I had with Liz are being made impossible?
Yeah, I mean, what I've noticed also, especially when you speak hard truths, but very gently and with a lot of empathy, it's almost like a culture shock for them. And what I realized is when people go through something like a culture shock or a shaking of their worldview, the foundations of what they believe, there's a very immediate visceral response to it. So a lot of times what I always tell people whenever they ask me, how do you talk to people like that? I just tell them that when they have that very aggressive reaction, just know it's not really about you that they're being aggressive about. It's not to you. It's more of just they're psychologically having their foundation shook. And it's almost like a defense mechanism of the psyche to say, put a barrier and say, no, be as aggressive as possible. So always seeing examples like with you and talking with her and even just talking about the stuff in general, having empathy, compassion, listening is such a key. And also in having those conversations finding a way, finding common ground, and then helping them realize that they actually do kind of see a lot of the things that you do, and kind of providing that guidance. So again, thank you so much for having that conversation. I do hope that many others will have similar ones. And I totally also understand the other side, where people watching this are very infuriated, very frustrated, and feel very triggered as well, especially those who have gone through that abuse and had those traumas. And to hear someone negate them and gaslight can be very difficult. But I would say in these conversations, if you do feel triggered by the individual you're talking with, and I say this to the audience, take a moment, say that you need to take a break from the conversation, walk away. And then if you feel okay with continuing the conversation, do so. But otherwise, you don't really owe them that conversation. So always think, if you do get into that conversation, ask yourself, why are you doing it? What is your intention? What are you hoping to get out of it?
Indeed. And conversations can't be about winning battles. If you're going to have a meaningful conversation, both sides need to be willing to listen, So I'm glad that you found this particular conversation helpful, and thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. Take care. And we also have Yesenia. Welcome, Yesenia.
Hi, Lloyd.
Hi, how are you doing? Did you enjoy the conversation?
I wouldn't say enjoyed. I'm kind of floored right now because, I got a double whammy of listening to the conversation with Liz, and also the first person you spoke to on this viewer invasion. The hypnosis is so thick, and I'm not saying this to talk poorly or negatively about Liz or that first man that you spoke, but it just really reiterated for me how patient we have to, and understanding we have to be with people. I mean, this is a woman who's been associated with the witnesses for 40 years.
Yeah.
But never got baptized. And then the first person you spoke to had such criticisms for Jehovah's Witness beliefs, and then at the very last second said to you, well, I still might go back. So it's pretty incredible. And for me, it just helps me understand what a lot of my family members are going through, of just how it's so hard to shake the deep hypnosis and the brainwashing, which I know we've been talking about the word brainwashing on your channel the last few weeks, and people have issues with that, but it is brainwashing to me. And it just brought a whole new light to it for me.
Yeah, it's profound, isn't it, what Jehovah's Witness indoctrination can do. In Liz's case, she's been subjected to it for decades, and even though she's never committed or hasn't yet committed, it's still going to, really kind of program her behavior and program her responses. And, that's someone who hasn't been baptized. Imagine what impact it's going to have on someone who is baptized and ends up getting disfellowshipped or disfellowshipped multiple times. Even though you're conscious of the fact that it's not true, the brain can be so complicated and so hardwired that even though it makes no sense at all, you'd even consider going back. That sort of thing, I think, is more common than we'd perhaps like it to be,
Yeah. And I'll just say one quick thing. I have such a strong curiosity that has someone, and maybe Liz will answer this one day if she could for us, has someone been studying with her for 40 years? Because remember, I think you covered it in last year's convention when they were saying, we don't really want you wasting time with Bible studies that aren't progressing. So I wonder who's studying with her. Is she still actively studying?
Yeah.
And how do they square that away with the new direction from the governing body that, move along if someone's not jumping to get baptized in a reasonable time period, whatever they think that is.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be able to get Liz back on for an update at some point. Maybe once some water is under the bridge and she's had chance to digest, our conversation and maybe respond to some of the points that were raised. But yeah, it is interesting how, her experience completely flies in the face of the latest direction, which is to abandon Bible studies that aren't progressing. They want people to be chomping at the bit fairly quickly in the study to get baptized. So yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thanks, Lloyd.
Okay, take care. And we also have Paul
McCann.
Oh.
With
Hi,
his
Lloyd.
With
speakers
his
on.
speakers on.
Is my speaker on?
I think so.
I think so.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
I can hear myself,
as well. That's the problem.
Oh, here, I'll turn it down. Here, I'll put my headset on. That way.
Thank
Just a
you.
second.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, this is not working. I might have to do this next time, Lloyd. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem.
No problem.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, Paul. So we also have Patrick. Welcome, Patrick.
Hey, how you doing, Lloyd?
Not bad at all. What did you make of that?
You know, I think even though there was a lot of parts that were frustrating, I can't blame her, because a lot of the things that she was saying were really things that we would have said. A lot of the things that she was saying were like cliches too, as well. Especially when she started getting into the website. You know, what other organization has the website available, and it's all free and this and that. And again, like the points you brought up, because you did an excellent job. I mean, I think you have more patience in your thumb than I do in my entire body, to be frank. It was interesting to see that the arguments just kind of fell flat, but it's the same things that we were programmed to say at one time. So that was interesting to see.
Yeah, it was. Again, I have to credit Liz for the way the conversation went, because, you know, if I can imagine it going very, very differently if someone had been more defensive than she was. I think that with Liz, there was a good faith element where she was willing to listen to other opinions and understand my position, at least partially. So even if, again, there were moments where I felt as though certain points hadn't landed with her, I could at least sense that there was a respectful willingness to engage meaningfully in dialogue. And I think that's not always going to be the case. And dare I suggest that if Liz had been baptized, or if I'd been speaking to a baptized Jehovah's Witness, the conversation might have gone not as well, because they would have perhaps been even more indoctrinated, and those points would have been, they would have been even more tempted to perhaps bury their head in the sand on certain issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciated her at least coming on, and there was a lot of headway made in this discussion. And if she does end up watching this later, I mean, you know, I would like to say to her too as well, just those sentiments, but also that I hope she realizes that the fact that she's not baptized, she's not going to have the same experience as so many of us. So often her argument was, well, that's just not my experience, as you've addressed. Mm. But unfortunately, I think I can speak for everyone watching that maybe was disfellowshipped or whatever. It's just, that's not the case. And even with that documentary that she mentioned that she felt really angry about, maybe ask her to do a mental health exercise on why she feels that. Is it because now it's bringing out something in a different light that perhaps she hasn't seen before? And because nobody wants to be wrong, right? Nobody wants to think that they're in a cult or that they chose this organization in the wrong way. But you have to ask yourself that now with this new information that's being shown, is that causing you to feel that anger because it was something that was hidden from you? It's just it's a new perspective that now you have. And that does something where it's like, no. And your mind wants to reject that right away. So that might be something interesting for her to maybe think about.
Yeah, that was interesting, that stuff about apostasy. Because like you referred to it as a documentary yourself, it's not a documentary, it's a fictional narrative. And that kind of floored me a little bit, because I don't think that was in the original email, because I have the email in front of me. And so I was ready to kind of, remind her of some of her arguments, but I don't seem to remember the apostasy thing being here. Again, it's a fictional narrative, and I don't know how you can complain too much about issues being addressed in a fictional narrative as being misleading or untruthful. It's fictional. The whole point of fiction is that it's not real. Are the issues fair? And I think that's where Liz had a problem, because again, from her very limited experience as someone who's never been a Jehovah's Witness, well, how could you possibly have those issues? Well, why not speak to some people who have had those issues, you know? So I think that was one of the things that kind of blindsided me a little bit in the conversation. But hopefully we made some headway regardless.
Yeah, exactly. So just hopefully that she can kind of think about people that have gone through those experiences and really just get more insight. And if I were to send a message to her and even the first caller, which, you know, the last lady that you just interviewed said too, when he was thinking about coming back, a message to him and a message to Liz: don't let the fact that there's this strong feeling of community blind you to the fact of the bigger issues. Because I mean, it's true. You want to go back because you've built your whole life around this organization. All your friends and your family are in this organization, and that's the pull. So, you know, analyze that for yourself and see that that's, you know, that might be the reason why you feel like you have to come back and into the truth, so to speak, right? But that, yeah, there's better things out there. There's more peace out there, and just give it a shot, you know?
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you so much, Patrick. Thanks for tuning in. And we also have Hillary. Welcome, Hillary.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Are you driving safely? Are we interfering with your ability to pilot the vehicle?
You are not. I have my phone clipped,
Good.
so I might not look at you, but it's not because I don't want to look at your face. Yeah, I just thought it was really funny because it brought the first thing I thought of was, remember, I don't know if it's still this way. It's been 10 years since I've been in the truth, but they had two versions of what does the Bible really teach? And one of them was the real version that we got, and one of them was the study version that you gave to other people, and it like didn't have the stuff about, you know, masturbating, and it didn't have all the stuff about.
You're referring to the God's Love book, which
That's
became the Remain in God's Love book, I think. Yeah.
Right, and so it's just fun. It's like, it's not funny, but I would just encourage her, if she's listening, to maybe ask the tougher questions before she gets baptized. You know, because they do kind of sugarcoat a lot of that stuff to make it seem like it's all love, and a lot of it is. You can't dismiss that, but there are a lot of things that are not loving that you're not hearing about, and it's going to be when you have serious repercussions for leaving and you feel like you can't, and you've been manipulated in that way, that then you're going to hear the hard truths of things that are non-negotiables. And so that's what's really frustrating to hear, because like, I agree with you. I think she's an intelligent woman. I think it's great that she's questioning. I think that conversation went well in comparison to a lot of other things I might have heard. So yeah, that was just... I did
not know what was going to happen, to be honest.
Right.
I took a little bit of a leap of faith there.
I'm so glad you did.
And Liz really came through for me, because again, it could have gone so very, very differently if she'd have been unwilling to engage in a respectful dialogue. But she clearly was willing to engage, and so we were able to make headway. So definitely,
I have never clicked anything faster in my life. I was like, whoop.
Well, there's still, like, I'm looking at the viewers now, 984 watching at the moment. So yeah, it's clearly something that resonates. So.
Right.
But thank you so much for being among those that tuned in, and I'm glad you found it helpful.
Thank you so much. You are an inspiration to all of us. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Hillary. Take care. Bye. And we also have Nicole De Lima. Welcome, Nicole.
Hi, Lloyd. I'm not actually a Jehovah's Witness, and I've never been, but I've followed you for many years now. I did want to say that, and I'll keep this brief, I might have been watching too many political debates, because I kind of expected this to be very spicy and very, I don't know, maybe like, I don't know, some of the atheist shows that I've seen, but I actually really liked how it turned out. And I like how you were really calm about the whole thing, and, you know, didn't, I mean, you just kind of rebuffed most of what she said. I did want to point out to maybe Liz, if she's still watching, one thing that I would ask her is, what, you know, if the organization was bad, and if the you know, what proof would be acceptable to her? You know, because if talking to apostates and listening to the stories of people who have left aren't quote unquote good enough, then, you know, what would be? Because you're certainly not going to find out about this from any sort of like official channel. It's never going to be printed in the Bible, for example, that Jehovah's Witnesses specifically encourage shunning and do all these other things. So I think that she should answer that question for herself, I think.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, if it were a cult, how would you know? I think I even said something along those lines. You know, would you expect to go on jw.org and have them say something like, well, we're God's one true organization that he's using on the earth, and we also have a terrible track record with child abuse.
Right.
And she admitted that they're just not going to say that, you know.
Right.
So,
and like as well, like jw.org is never going to be that kind of open forum that allows people to, you know, post their experiences, you know, without any kind of bias. It's not Google reviews. So, you know, definitely, I think that she's on the right track of at least talking to you. I think that you should definitely do more calls like this, you know, maybe with people who, you know, if they can stay anonymous, that would be good for them. Because this was a great stream to catch.
Oh, definitely. And now that you've mentioned that, let me take this opportunity to say that if any, you know, believing Jehovah's Witnesses or unbaptized publishers, or maybe even ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who are POMI, physically out, mentally in, you know, want to come on the channel and thrash things out respectfully, and that's the only caveat really, that we have a respectful dialogue like the one we've just had, I am all for it. And, you know, we're not going to see the same willingness to engage in dialogue on the other side, aren't we? We're not going to see Tony Morris or Stephen Lett or any of the other governing body members saying, you know, we'd like to sit down with Lloyd Evans and have a conversation.
That would be sick, though, if they did do that.
We can dream about it, but realistically, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
But no, that's really interesting, and thank you for that input. And might I say, Nicole, that you say that you've been following for years as someone who's never been a Jehovah's Witness, and I actually find it very, very touching when people say that, because it means that we have allies. You know, if it's just going to be ex-witnesses who are in this struggle by ourselves, it's going to be so much more of a mountain to climb than if we have allies who have empathy for our position and want to come rallying to our aid at our time of need. So that's how
Absolutely.
I see you.
And no, I like, and I appreciate it. And I think that, you know, especially, and, you know, I didn't even know that you were in this kind of thing where you actually did talk to, you know, like current witnesses. So I think it's great that, you know, they're kind of expanding. You know, I feel like you'll be able to expand your reach with this for sure.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And I'm mindful of the time. Let's just take maybe a couple more. Welcome to Danielle.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I just I can see like the thinking of how she thinks, because I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. Well, I was raised in the truth or whatever, but I recently just kind of got out of it, and so it is hard to even like certain things to, you know, think, because I've had like this problem of but like the truth, it's of the organization really. So I don't know I know this might be a little confusing. I'm 17 years old. Wow. So it's like I was raised my whole life in this organization because of my father. My mom, though, she got out of it like 15 years ago. But I can see how this was a problem. But like not a problem, just like, you know, how thinking, if you can have any questions or anything. I'm a little nervous right now, so.
That's okay. Well, I think you're probably the youngest I've ever had on the channel, because I tried to set the bar at 18, because I'm very much into the whole kind of consent thing, and so you've kind of snuck in here. But it's really, hopefully you found the conversation helpful, and I don't know what your story is, but maybe at some point in the future it might be interesting to drill down and find out kind of more about what's prompted you to part ways. But I'm guessing that you'll have related to some of the things that Liz and I discussed, and particularly when it's coming to things like shunning and that kind of thing.
Yes, because my mom, she experienced shunning from her children. So like my brothers and sister, well, my brother recently got out as well. I was never baptized. It was only my brother and my sister. My sister's still in it. So it's like, it's hard to, and I recently have been talking to her. So it's a little confusing. And it's, I have my moments, but yeah, I just wanted to join, and I wanted to give an advice is that to Liz is to do your research, like, and ask questions, like never, if you're in a position where it's like, you're somewhere, but you have like doubts or anything, you got to ask questions and do your research. So that's all. That is very, very wise advice coming from a 17-year-old. So you're wise beyond your years. And, also, I emailed you guys, but like I got an email back saying that, we're full. I just wanted to let you know I've been always trying to contact you. Okay. In some way, and I've been watching your videos for a while now, and it's. We do our best at JW Watch, but it is sometimes difficult to keep on top of things, and we're also kind of having a bit of a change around with the team at the moment. But I do thank you for tuning in, and thank you for trying to reach through to us, and we'll try to be of more help to you in the future. That's for sure. Yes. Thank you so much. Thanks, Danielle. Take care. Okay. Oh, crumbs. It's amazing to see so many tuning in. I'm gonna. Oh, good grief! I hate having to choose. I just want to welcome Outworldly, who has been on before and now come back on. Hey. How's it going?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. What did you make of that conversation?
I thought it was wonderful. I loved the conversation, and like you said, you never know how those kind of conversations are going to go, and it'd be nice to have more of them, but it's hard to engage in a dialogue, let alone have somebody be willing to come on a public forum. My question for you was, there was something that kind of kept coming up that was almost a little triggering for me in a way, because it reminded me of when I was waking up and trying to have conversations with my family. And, you would bring up something that's a very clear witness belief or a quote from a video. And she would say, well, I've never seen that, or I've never heard that. And there's almost no way that's true. These are like, you weren't referencing like some esoteric video. It's shown at the midweek meetings. It's been on conventions. What do you think that is? Because I experienced this kind of amnesia with my parents. I would bring up things, but it was almost like if it was coming from me, they had to refute it no matter what. What is that like defense mechanism?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that it's possible that sometimes when Jehovah's Witnesses say that they're being a little bit disingenuous, they're just trying to contradict for the sake of contradicting, or pour cold water on what they know is a damaging line of argumentation. But in Liz's case, I think we can extend spade loads of benefit of the doubt, because she isn't a Jehovah's Witness, and she's, in her own words, been in and out for 40 years and is only just now reaching the point where she's kind of at a crossroads where she's wondering whether to get baptized or not. And clearly there's a lot of scope there for her to be, frankly, just underinformed about the religion that she's coming out to bat for. And so I think I actually believe her when she says, oh, I don't know about that, and I don't know about that. I think it is actually possible as an adult, scarily enough, to commit yourself to this organization without really knowing anything about it, substantially. So, but I do think in some cases I can imagine it just being a case of, frankly, just people lying and them knowing full well what you're on about, but just wanting to, you know, throw cold water on the conversation.
Yeah, I'm with you. I absolutely believe her, and in a weird way, I, you know, would believe my parents too. Like, it seemed like in that moment they're like, well, there's no way that's true because you're saying it.
So
And I know
they weren't
you're wrong.
like consciously doing it. It was like you say, more selective amnesia, like
something like
their
that.
brain
I don't know,
was,
but
synapses in their brain were telling them, no, you really don't remember this, even though you sort of do.
yeah. But no, I thought that was great, and I hope that maybe this can break the ice a little bit, and maybe because it was a really a productive conversation. I thought you were very patient, and like the previous person on the stream said, it wasn't like some sensationalist stream where you were trying to like dunk on somebody. So I hope that this opens the way for like people being maybe more comfortable trying to hop on and have conversations. Well,
I might just add that Liz is still very much watching this, because I can see, bless her, she's there in the StreamYard software. So it's actually nice, I think, that she's been able to see this feedback. Hopefully it prompts some introspection on her part. I'm definitely up for a round 2 at some point. And also the offer's there for any other, again, believing Jehovah's Witnesses or ex-Jehovah's Witnesses or pre-Jehovah's Witnesses in this case, if they want to take Liz's place. But thank you. That was actually a really good point. And might I add, viewers, that Alt Worldly's interview will be appearing on the channel soon. It's actually been edited by Tibor. I just need to do the thumbnail and that kind of thing. But it will be up in the next few days.
Well, I didn't mean for this to be a plug, but oh my goodness.
I know.
No, I did want to we mentioned that. I didn't realize Liz was still watching, but I just wanted to say, I had nothing but positive experiences with witnesses as well when I was in. And I think you'll find that with many ex-witnesses, that it really wasn't the case. And some people did just have negative experiences, but many people, they had good experiences. They were in good congregations with nice people. And they ended up realizing over the course of a long time that it just wasn't true. So I think she'll find a lot of like-minded people if she wants to engage in more conversation.
Absolutely, and hopefully she's also surprised at how well the conversation went. Maybe she went into this expecting to be, gunned down and treated disrespectfully. Hopefully that wasn't her experience. But yeah, thank you so much for that input, Jake, and hopefully we will be seeing more from Liz in the future, as indeed we will be seeing more from you. So
absolutely, thank you.
Okay, see you soon, mate. Take care. I think that's all we have time for, because I'm mindful that we're coming up on the 2-hour mark, and it's already much longer than I planned. But wow, what an incredible live stream we've managed to have. Again, credit to Liz for helping both of us to have, a meaningful dialogue. Hopefully it's of use to people. Hopefully we've learned something about how to have these conversations and the fact that these conversations are possible. Maybe some of you watching feel a little bit emboldened to have conversations along these lines with friends or loved ones that you know. So that would be really good, wouldn't it? But all that remains is to thank everyone for tuning in. Hopefully there will be a part 2, although no promises. That's very much Liz's decision, but I'm game for it. And I will continue to try to have these conversations to the extent possible. But that's all I have time for, I'm afraid. Don't forget to subscribe to the Lloyd Evans channel for more such videos. And as always, thank you for watching.